Hello and welcome back to Chapter 4 of the Theology of the Body Bible Study. My name is John Bishop and I'm the author of this study, excited to talk with you about the fourth and final chapter of Theology of the Body proper before we go into specific issues that are related to theology of the body. As I begin this video, I just want to say thank you for leading this study and impress upon you just how valuable you are as a leader of this study. Theology of the body is a topic which has enormous importance for our present culture, especially the contemporary American college campus. And the reason for that is because our culture is so broken when it comes to the body, when it comes to our experience of sexuality. What is needed in this brokenness is, yes, on the one hand, the theology of the body, but on the other hand, we need people like yourself who are willing and able to accompany men and women through their experience, their confusion about the body and sexuality. We need discipleships, relationships. We need small group Bible studies and things of this nature where people can actually talk about their hearts. Because oftentimes when people hear about theology of the body, they're tempted to view it as some high, very unattainable standard. That's like a sort of mountaintop that they can never attain because their own experience of sexuality, their own experience of their body is so broken. We need people to walk in the brokenness, especially in this day and age. Our experience of sexuality is so broken. And when a student encounters theology of the body and realizes that they fall short, we need people like yourself who are willing to walk in the imperfection of their own experience of the body and to help others do the same. So thank you for leading the Theology of the Body Bible study and for advancing the new evangelization. This study, just like the studies that you've done so far, has three sections: a context section, a main thing section, and a conclusion. To give you the 30,000-foot view, here's what we're going to talk about. This entire study rotates around a passage in Scripture, Matthew chapter 22, verses 23 through 33. And in this passage, a group of Sadducees have approached Christ with a question. Really, a puzzle is a better way to put it. Because these Sadducees aren't really interested in what Christ has to say. They just want to trick him into admitting their own position when it comes to the resurrection of the body. See, the Sadducees did not believe in life after death and in the resurrection. And they wanted to trick Christ into their own point of view. Christ responds in a very artful way. He sort of sidesteps the question and addresses what lies at the root of the Sadducees' doubt. We're going to talk about Christ's sidestep in the context section. Christ then turns and addresses the specifics of the question, and that's what we'll do in the main thing. Then finally, in the application section of this study, we're going to shift to a related verse of Scripture, Matthew chapter 19. So, context, main thing, and conclusion. Please read your leader guide before you watch this video. But without any further ado, we'll talk about the context. Matthew chapter 22, verses 23 through 33. I'll let you read it on your own, but essentially what happens is this. The Sadducees come to Christ with their puzzle, and they say, "Teacher, there was a group of men amongst us, a group of brothers, 7 brothers, and the eldest of the 7 brothers married a woman. That man then died and left the brother to the second eldest, who died, leaving the woman to the third, and so on and so forth, until all 7 of the men had died. This being the case, and knowing that marriage is eternal, or is for life, how is it that that marriage could be preserved in heaven? Are all 7 of the men married to the woman in heaven?" So, this question, Christ senses, is a puzzle that the Sadducees are laying at Christ's feet to trick him into denying the reality of heaven. But Christ has been in heaven, and he knows all things. He's God. he also knows the source of the doubt of the Sadducees. And that's what he does first. He speaks directly into the Sadducees' doubt, and he says, look, the reason why you're giving me this question has nothing really to do with you wanting an answer. It's because you doubt the power of God. You don't know the scriptures, which say that God is not a God of the past. He is a God of the present, and he is all-powerful. He can do all things, and he can solve all problems. The source of your doubt is that you doubt the power of God. And this is a question that you can put to your students. All of your students have now heard some of the core themes, the core messages of Theology of the Body. It's an incredibly transformative teaching, but are they doubting it? And can you, as a Bible study leader, accompany them in their shame, their imperfect experiences of the body and sexuality? Can you speak with them and console them about the ways in which they're doubting this incredible message? This is the context section of the Bible study where Jesus addresses the heart of the Sadducees' doubt. Now it's time to move to the main thing section where Christ addresses the specifics. And the answer to the specifics are easy. These 7 brothers actually won't be married, none of them will be married to the woman in heaven. Because as Christ knows, the marriages that we experience here on earth, earthly marriages, will not persist into heaven. Marriage is an earthly reality, not a heavenly reality. Or at least, the marriage that we will experience in heaven is not a marriage to another human person so much as it is a marriage between Christ and the church. So our marriages here on heaven, like we've said, are sacraments. In a sense, they're like road maps that point us to a heavenly reality. But it makes no sense to look at the road map when you've arrived at the destination. When you've come to the Grand Canyon, for example, it makes no sense to continue looking at your GPS. And the same is true for marriage. Our earthly marriages do not persist in heaven. And here at this point, I'd like to introduce what is perhaps the Church's most definitive statement of her positive view of the body and sexuality. It concerns heaven, and the Church maintains that our experience in heaven will be mysterious. We won't know what it's like until we get there, but we do know a few things about it, and one of those things that we know is that our experience of heaven will be an embodied experience. Heaven is not some realm of pure spirits. When we go to heaven, it will be an incarnate, embodied experience. The Church believes in the resurrection of the body. She believes that in heaven we will have bodies, and I'll argue that the Church is nowhere more pro-body than in the teaching on the resurrection of the body. A teaching that we say at Mass every single Sunday in the Nicene Creed. Think about this. Just let the reality of this teaching sink in. You will have a body for all eternity. Thanks be to God, it won't be an imperfect body because the Church says that the bodies we'll have in heaven will be glorified bodies. They won't suffer from any of the imperfections that we have here on earth. But we do know that our bodies in the here and now, our existence in the here and now rather, will continue to be embodied when we transition into eternity. The Church is never more pro-body than in her experience, in her teaching of the resurrection of the body. This is the main thing section. And after the main thing section, we'll go to the application section, which is a concrete conversation about 2 things. One, I want you to bring the whole message of the Bible study thus far home and ask your students, where are they like the Sadducees? Where are they doubting this beautiful teaching? It's very easy for young men and young women to think, I'm too broken. Theology of the body is just too high and I cannot attain it. How can you, as the Bible study leader, help your students, accompany your students into a deeper belief of this beautiful teaching of John Paul II? Now, the final portion of this Bible study addresses a concrete question that many of your students probably have. And here's the question. Given everything that we've said about the body, that the body is so good that it is a sacramental realization of the marriage that is to come, and further things that we've said in this study, that when we experience heaven, it will be like something of a marriage. Our marriages from earth will not persist, but we will indeed be married to Christ and the marriage of Christ in the church, in the heavenly life. If all that is the case, what about priests and nuns? What about sisters and brothers and consecrated lay people? Where does all of this leave them? Well, John Paul II has an answer for that question, and it lies in his treatment of celibacy in Theology of the Body. To answer this question, you're going to go to Matthew chapter 19, and I'll let you read the Bible verse yourselves. But here John Paul II comments on Christ's words. And he says that there are some people who are called to have a foretaste, a special realization of the heavenly marriage while they're still on earth. And those are priests, nuns, those in celibate vocations. You see, we talked in the main things section about the fact that our earthly marriages won't persist in heaven, and there's a way in which we'll all be given to the Lord very, very directly and intimately. Priests and nuns choose to take on that sort of intimacy, at least a foretaste of it, while they're still on earth. And here, in this way, a priest, a nun, a consecrated layperson, they witness to the marriage which is to come. So, for example, a priest who is devoted himself exclusively to the Lord in a way that is a foretaste of the marriage that is to come, his life is a witness to all married people and says, all of your marriages, they are so good. And in fact, they point to something even better, which is the marriage between Christ and the church, which we will all experience in heaven. So in this way, Theology of the Body is not only for married people, it's for everyone, including those who are called the celibate vocations. Because we all realize the spousal dimension of the body, no matter what our vocation might be. Ask your students, have they ever considered the celibate way of life? Have they ever considered perhaps becoming a priest, a nun, a sister, a consecrated layperson, a brother? I encourage you to ask them this question because it might be the first time that they've ever heard it.